Hey all, so here's a very quick tutorial on debugging a React application in Visual Studio Code. We need to start our app. So if I do in terminal on Visual Studio Code, npm start or run, I forget even as I've just pressed it. Let's start it up. It's running there in my browser. Now that's fine, but I've got a different browser there. I want to run it in Chrome. So I can close that anyway, it'll stay running. And I just need to come over into the run and debug option. And you'll see these here. First, you need to create a launch.json file first time. So just press that and let's just choose Chrome. Assume you've got Chrome, or you can do Edge, but these are the easiest ones. And so then that is provisioning that file, and boom, it opens up. Now, first thing to note is that you may see localhost here defaults to 8080. All my React apps default to 3000, so I'm just going to change that. So that's running on the right port now. We're ready to go. But before I do that, I want to come into one of my components. Let's say if I come into one of my files, maybe I come into home.js, and just, you see on hover you've got a breakpoint. So that, if you don't know, that's just going to stop the execution when you're debugging and just pause. And we get to see in these windows all the data stored in those variables, and makes it so much easier for us. So before we go to the next step of run it, let's make sure we put a breakpoint somewhere of interest. It might end up just looping loads of times, but let's have a look. And then when we run it, we've got the run configuration already here. That's been propagated because of the launch.json file. If I look at the launch.json file, right click on it, reveal in File Explorer, you'll see where it is. Okay, so it's gone into the VS Code file and it's just created that there. So if you do need to redo this, you just need to delete it from the File Explorer. Okay, so let's run that now. And it should launch in Chrome. And again, remember we already had the app running before we did this. So it's still running against that. And so I've put the breakpoint here. Previously, actually, I didn't show you me doing this, but I've got a breakpoint here. And then these are our next points of interest. Okay, so continue will just go to your next breakpoint or to completion. Step over means you just want to step over what it stopped on. You don't want to look into it. Step into will go into that function if there is a sub-function. And step out means just leave the function if you're in the middle of it. Got to restart and I've got to stop. Okay, and I can just drag this around. And as you can see on hover, there's keyboard shortcuts for all of these. So if I step over, you can see the lines coming down. And what I have over here, I can expand these, but I've got the local nav bar and I can see the data at any point. Now there's nothing particularly useful here, right? So, and that's just going to return. It's also really nice to get an idea of how the app runs. Now if you look into this, it'll jump into all of these things that have come bundled with the React framework, right? So I'm going to continue out of that. I don't need to see that. Now I might take this breakpoint off because this is going to be a bit boring to see that. If I wanted to see it in the watch view, now it's probably not a very useful one. It's not a good one to choose actually. But if you want to watch something, you can right click on it and watch it. And so add to watch. Again, I wouldn't worry about that because they're not going through, the data hasn't been passed. But if there's variables you want to keep a close eye on, you can do it there. And you can see it's being executed at any one time in the locals. And the call stack is good where it tells you essentially where you are, right? So at the moment I'm in the nav bar, but if you've got, you know, multiple classes and functions all calling each other, you can see and you can step through the stack by clicking that down the stack. This is just a simple app, so it's not quite the same. I can step over, but I'm actually just going to return. And here we are, perhaps a bit more interest for the local. You can see I've got this blog list. Again, just following that tutorial. But if I look here, I can expand that. I've got a lot of detail there, and then I can see what's in my list, and I can expand them to see each bit of data at a time. Very useful. Another point you may want to use as well, if I bring that down, in the breakpoints, you know, if you wanted to stop working with one, you can just untick it, and you can also click on the pencil icon and add conditional break. So only break if this is true. You can just stick that in, so you can ignore it unless it meets a certain condition, instead of, let's say, going through a loop for everything. You don't need to do that. If I continue, it'll just finish loading. Now next up, check out my next video here, and I will see you there. Thanks for watching. Give us a like and subscribe if it was helpful. Bye.